The Zika virus is an infection that is initiated when a blood-feeding female mosquito, active both in the daytime and the nighttime, injects the virus into the skin of its host. This is then followed by the infection of permissive cells through specific receptors. Though primarily transferred through mosquitoes, Zika virus can also be transferred through sex, and a pregnant woman can give it off to her fetus. Though 4 out of 5 people don't show any symptoms of Zika virus when they are infected, 1 out of 5 infected people do recognize things like fever, joint pain, muscle pain, red eyes, and even headaches. Zika virus has the ability to cause defects in newly born children, and it's also linked to several other pregnancy problems as well. For example, the image right here shows the birth defect having an impact on the development in newborns. As you can see, the head size and shape is hindered by Zika and underdeveloped in comparison to a newborn that is not affected by Zika. I also found another image that shows the effect of a mosquito bite on the fetus directly, so I'm gonna go ahead and put that right here for you guys so you can take a look. Additionally, the risk for Guillain-Barré syndrome is said to be increased in newborns that are affected by Zika. But throughout all of the effects that Zika virus causes, the ultimate effect is paralysis, which eventually leads to death. Zika virus is often compared to Ebola, even though they are 2 completely different things. These symptoms of Ebola are more clear and are shown to consist of things like vomiting or excessive bleeding. Ebola is shown to spread more rapidly and more easily, unlike Zika, which is spread through more intimate reactions. This would keep Zika virus a lot more contained than Ebola. Skin immune cells, including dermal fibroblasts, epidermal keratinocytes, and immature dendritic cells were all found to be tolerant of the infection of Zika. Focusing in on dendritic cells, you can see that immature dendritic cells, as mentioned earlier, are tolerant to the Zika virus. Looking at the image shown, the tolerance bar at the bottom of the image highlights the comparison between the immunity of immature dendritic cells versus mature dendritic cells. The immunity of the immature cells is much lower than those that are mature, giving way to the inheritance of Zika, which aids with the replication of the infection itself. This diagram shows Zika virus transmission from a mosquito traveling through the keratinocytes into the immune dendritic cells, which enhance the infection, ultimately leading to some of the symptoms previously mentioned. On the right side of the diagram are some of the things that are not yet discovered about Zika virus, but are still being studied extensively. These results also show a major role in phosphatidylserine. Oh my god. Phosphatidylserine. Oh my god. I'm gonna put the word over here. These results also show a major role for receptors, which is a component of the cell membrane, as entry for the Zika virus and also acting as an enhancer for Zika virus replication, which would take place in permissive cells that allow for Zika to replicate inside of them. Zika virus replication leads to an activation in an antiviral innate immune response, as well as the production of type 1 interferons, which are proteins in animal cells that respond to infections in infected cells. Replication occurs most easily in endometrial tissues. This reveals insight into the interaction of Zika virus and its mammalian host. Since Zika virus has received far less attention in comparison to other diseases that are emerging, such as yellow fever, West Nile, Japanese encephalitis, and Ebola, the pathogenesis of Zika virus still remains very poorly understood to this day. No information is available on the nature of skin cells that allow infection with Zika or on the entry receptor that's used by this disease. So things like the mechanisms of Zika virus infection, signaling pathways, and antiviral immune response of the host elicted are still being studied. In a present study, entry receptors and cellular targets are said to be responsible for the case that took place recently in French Polynesia. This was able to provide a general insight into the interaction between the virus and a human host. With all of the information that is yet to be discovered about Zika virus, there is still currently no cure or vaccine for the infection. With all that being said, this concludes my research on the immune response to Zika virus. Thank you very much for watching. Bye.